For the animal lovers, even the horses aren't spared. All the horses and all the donkeys and everything, they all look. The famine is real. This is an 11-year-old girl. So one of the main questions I get when I came back from other people is, we hear online that there's like this, people are hungry over there, but then we also hear like they're not hungry. Like, can you tell us like what's actually happening? And oftentimes I'll show them the horse because people here seem to care more about the horse than the people. But this girl, 11 or 12 years old, I withheld the video because I thought it was a bit much. But she came in very weak, very tired. She came in talking. I was like ultrasounding her. I had like a handheld ultrasound machine. I was ultrasounding her, like talking to her, like, oh, what's going on? Why are you here? And then she like slowly like fell asleep. She stopped talking, heart stopped, passed away. Cause of death is malnutrition. Skin and bone. You don't need me to tell you the obvious. These are kids who are the age of the kids here. They're dying because they're hungry. This is so I would sleep at Al Ahli Hospital, which is the hospital that's very close to their front line. So every day there's bombing. Usually it starts at Maghrib. Right when Adhan starts, they like coincide almost on the dot. So like he says Allahu Akbar, and then the bombing starts. Almost constant, you can barely hear the Adhan. And it goes until right after Fajr. And then usually during the day, things slow down. You imagine like they're reloading, they're laughing, they're joking. And it starts up usually again around the Maghrib. This should have a video as well, if you go back. So here it might be hard to see, but there's like a jet dropping things. That's the sound of a quadcopter. So the quadcopter will fly near the hospital. So while the jets are flying, these like quadcopters with the machine guns, they fly through the streets and they shoot whoever it might be. So while you're at the hospital, you're just listening to this quadcopter shooting. And you know it's not shooting walls. Like you know it's shooting patients. So you hear this and then you wait and you say, okay, how long until whoever was shot comes? And you're just like, I wonder, is it going to be a kid? Is it going to be a dad? Is it going to be a grandfather? Is it going to be someone with flour? Is it going to be someone in a bag of flour? Like, what's going to come? And it's like, it's something truly from a movie. I don't know how they're living like this. There's jets overhead, there's quadcopters. Every once in a while you hear like a tank shoot off in the distance, and then people are living. Like, there's kids down, like playing like with a soccer ball. This is a video from like my bed. So my bed is under the window. It will give like a sense for how close like the bombing is to the hospital. So these are airstrikes. They're happening like within like 200 yards from the hospital. The whole hospital shakes every time they hit. I think there's one more video at night because it's a little bit of a different.
Dr. Ahmed, can you tell us, was there any particular point in time where you, along with the staff, just said, you know, you're hearing them so close that you say, this is it, like this is our end?
Yeah. I'll touch on that right after this video, but yes. And this is all night. So these bombings are happening every 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. No longer than that. It's usually within like 2 or 3 minutes. So I could like sit on my phone and open a voice note, let it play for like 2 or 3 minutes, and with like 100% certainty, like the building would shake and there'd be an explosion. There was one night, there was a couple different instances, but there was one night in particular where I was working in the ER at Al Ahli, at this hospital. We're working on the ground, and oftentimes the drone like would visit the ER, right? So it comes to the ER, the drone actually like flies through the ER. And there was one time when we were working, and this quadcopter, like with a machine gun, and it's like spinning around looking at people as it cruises through the ER, which is a tent, because the actual ER was bombed 3 months ago. It starts speaking, and it says, like, you're not a man. Like, where you are is now a danger zone. You stay here, you're risking your life. You're putting your life at risk. Leave if you care about your life. And for me, I was like, so do we actually have to leave? And I looked around at the people, and everyone said, nope. They're like, where are you going to go? They're like, where are you going to go? Can you call Netanyahu and he'll take you out? Where are you going to go? And I was like, okay. So that night we stayed in the hospital, and that night the bombing was the most difficult. There was bombing like 8 houses. So there's like the hospital, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 houses down. That house was blown up, and like the shrapnel was flying, and it's landing on the tent. It's like as you're inside this tent, like working on patients, the tent is shaking. Your like ears are ringing from the bombing, and every once in a while you hear like almost rain, like things rolling across the floor, and it's like the shrapnel just like flying across the floor outside of the ER, and you hear like people screaming as they try and run away from it. And you're like supposed to be like in this tent, like working on patients with nothing. It feels like it's doomsday, like the end of time over there, and that's just another day in their life. The residents I'm working with, they're stone cold, nothing is shaking them, and I was scared. Everyone has like their means of like comfort. So in the morning I would work at Al Ahli, in the morning I would wake up, have my oatmeal, and I would go to Shifa Hospital in like a van or an ambulance to work during the day, and then at night I would come back for like my rice, and then I'd work the evening and night shift at Al Ahli. On the way to Shifa, they always say the most dangerous point of like your trip is between hospitals, because when you're at the hospital, typically you're safer. So between like all my rides, I had like a Ziploc with my like son's pajamas that like smelled like him. I would smell it, and I would say, you know, if something was to happen, at least like the last thing I smelled was Yasin. I don't want to say that. I don't want the takeaway from this to be like I'm the victim here. I think that's very, very important, and I want to emphasize this. Like, I'm not a victim from this. I put myself in this situation, and I knew the risk, and I put myself in this situation. But that's just like my way of coping. This is a pomegranate, probably the smallest one I've seen. So I was one day working at Al Shifa, and there was a resident there who I became very close with, a urology resident. And one day he came to me, and he came to us, rather, and he handed us a black bag with 2 pomegranates, like this big in them. And we're like, where did you get these? Because it would be very expensive. Like even a kilo of tomato is $30 US there. So I was like, where did you get this? And he said, from my house. And I was like, your house? Like, I know you're displaced, like you don't live in your house. He said, yes. My house in Hayy Zaytun, which is like a red zone. I was like, when did you go to Hayy Zaytun? He said, I went there, I ran there, because you're here, you're risking your life to be here. I know you have a wife, you have a son. You risk your life to be here to help us. So he said, I felt it was only right that I risk my life to get you something that you would enjoy. So he ran to his house in Hayy Zaytun, which is a red zone, which means if you're seen, you're killed. It's not a question. If you're seen, if you're spotted by a drone, you're killed. And the drones, it's like something from a movie. They just cruise. They're just like zoning, like they move around areas, maybe unmanned, who knows, and they shoot anything that moves. So he ran to his house to get 2 pomegranates and then bring them back to our team. At the hospital, so there's many, many orphans in Gaza. As you're driving between one hospital to another, I can't overestimate how many orphans, kids just like roaming the streets, and how many amputees there are. So, you know, every corner you go, there's like a kid with his stub, kid with 2, 3 stubs. They just like lay on the corner. You wonder, like, I don't know how they live, but they're there. So at the hospital, there's a lot of orphans there. The one I became close to, his name was Ahmed as well. The first day he ever came up to me, he asked me for money. I told him no, because you have to tell people no. you give away all your money, but you don't give it away in front of people. So he was in front of a bunch of kids, so I told him no. Other kids would like constantly ask me for money, and he never asked me for money again. Then one day when I was working at Shifa, I recognized his voice, and actually the next slide. This is him. He's an orphan. He lost his mom and his dad. He has no family members. He lives at the hospital by himself. I think he's like 9 or 10 years old. And the way he survives, I don't know how he does it, but he sells cold water. So this is a video at like midnight that I took from my room because I heard a familiar voice. He's walking through the hospital. He's selling cold water for 1 shekel. So after I told him no, he asked me, so we became friends. This wasn't the time I saw him, but the time I noticed and actually recognized him, then we started talking, we always became friends. And if you go back to the prior picture, that spot, like right there under the wall, under that wire, that's where he sleeps. So he sleeps on the sand. There's no pillow, there's no blanket. He sleeps outside by himself with no family. That's after he does his shift of selling water. And that's it. When you go into the hospital at night, so usually I would finish like my shift at Al-Ahli at around like 1 a.m., around there, around midnight. On the stairs, you find families sleeping at the bottom of the stairs with little kids with no pillows, with no blankets, and they're just like rubbing their feet on the ground, like trying like to get comfortable, trying to get warm. And we like developed this habit of when we took like bags of lollipops with us. So we would each take turns that we'd like go down there each night, and you'd like slide a lollipop into their hands so they wake up like with a lollipop. But orphans and children like that are everywhere. There's hundreds of them, just like armies of kids with no families, nothing, at the hospitals. Is this the next slide? Okay. So, like I mentioned, I contacted a few people and asked them, they're like, what should I say and what should I do? And when this is Nasser Hospital on the right. So on the way out of Gaza, we spent our last like 2-3 days at Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis. And as you know, recently, about like a week or so ago, that hospital was bombed and they killed a bunch of journalists there. Like it was on live TV. That's the area where they bombed, and if you look under it, there's like that yellow fence, and right there is a photo of me and my friend Aslam, who's the other ER doctor from here. That's that same yellow fence behind us. That's where we would sit like right under there at the end of the shift to kind of like decompress, usually like at midnight. This doctor right here, he was doing an interview at the time of the second bombing. He was holding up like a white coat with blood on it. His name was Muhammad. He's the like the head of nursing at Nasser Hospital, who I became very close with. I messaged him like to check in on him when I saw him on the news, and I said like, how are you, how are things? And that's his like WhatsApp message that he sent me. And translated, if you can't see it in the back, may God keep you, so I asked him how he was doing. And he said, may God keep you safe and protect your loved ones. We will not leave the mountain until this genocide stops. If this is not the time for health workers to fight to save lives, then when will it be? Just remember us with kindness, and remember that our brothers are being crushed without mercy or compassion for no crime other than that they did not abandon their humanitarian role. And I think this is like a beautiful like summary as to what the mentality is of the doctors, the residents who are alive and remain in Gaza, whether in Nasser or in Shifa or Ahli or any of the other handful of hospitals that are still functioning. They all have this mentality that they all believe that they're going to die. Every single one of them is convinced that they're going to die. And it's like a certainty to them because they've lost all their colleagues, they've lost all their coworkers. They're running on like fumes, like there's nobody left. So for them, they say, if I'm going to die, let it be helping people in the way that only I can and other ones cannot. And they take big pride in this, and they should. These are just some photos of the doctors and people that I met while I was there. Um, Under these circumstances, you bond very quickly. These people, when I came back to the United States, like, you land and then you get reception and then your phone like turns on and you get like a list of messages. I had dozens of messages from these people asking me like if I was okay, if I made it back okay, if my son was okay, if my wife, how are things going? Let me know how you're doing. They're all like thinking about me as I'm like flying back to the United States when they're in the circumstances that we've just been looking at for the last while. They really are a people like no other, and I don't think that can be said enough. And this is, I think, the final photo where, like, from Nasser Hospital, when you look out into like the ruins, you like see like little kids playing, jumping, screaming, doing like the normal things that kids do. And we're like looking down, and there was these 3 girls, and they're just like making like hearts for you, while there's like bombs dropping around them. And they're still somehow, they're playful, and they still somehow show love and affection to strangers because they know like you're here to help them. And I don't know, they're better than us all. That's it.
Wow. Dr. Ahmed, I mean, this is a remarkable journey. May Allah bless you for your heroic actions. What would you say was the most difficult part of this whole entire journey? I know, obviously it's filled with many difficulties, challenges. I'm sure there are things that you constantly think about, when you're back here, but if you had to sum it up.
I think there's a big guilt. I mean, we all feel it here. I think the guilt was like very much magnified when I went there, knowing that I had a time limit, knowing that if I was alive and everything went well, inshallah, that I would be returning back to my family, and even though I'm hungry and I'm losing weight and everything, that I'd be able to come back and eat, and if I got sick, I'd be able to come back and get better. Meanwhile, I know the people around me who are in circumstances worse than me are unable to do that. And then, of course, I think the hardest thing is the kids. The orphans, the kids who sleep alone, the kids who are cold, knowing that people are dying, but they're not dying, they're dying hungry, they're dying oppressed. And when you talk to them, they don't want anything from you. They just say like, remember us. Like, they would come to you and they just want to ask like, hey, are people really talking about us? Like the people when you're back home, like do they think about us? Do they care about us? Because here we feel like people don't. And so we open up Instagram and we see even our international friends, even the people who are in Gaza, like they'll post pictures of their food and they're dancing, they're still getting married. I was like, they would say like, do people really think about us? And over there, like they don't see like the protests and stuff, even though the protest is nothing, but they don't see these things. So I spent a lot of the time kind of trying to explain that people care. But I think we're all I think we self-impose restrictions on ourselves when it comes to sacrifice for people in our ummah. And the way I will say this, that in my opinion, if you are living your life and not taking any risk, whether it doesn't have to be with your life, you don't have to go to Gaza, but whether it's with your job, or whether it's with your friendships, or whatever it might be, if you are living your life and you are not risking something for these people, in my opinion, you're not doing enough. Because over there, what people will say to you is, like, when, they'll talk about, like, for example, Iran. I'm not going to get very political, but when they mention like Iran, they'll say, oh, like they fought for like 2 weeks and then they stopped. And your rebuttal might say like, oh, like they were going to get wiped out. And they say, so what? Like, why is it that they, or any other country, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Iran, whatever it might be, why is it that they are going out of their way to protect themselves when my son or daughter, or whatever it might be, my mother, my grandfather is dying hungry? So you are saying that because there is some struggle to you, they're like, are you still going to school? Are you still working? Are you still eating? Are you still drinking? Are you still doing all these things? Can you still take a shower? Yes, 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 yes. So why is it that is it not more of a sacrifice for my kid to die hungry than for you to give up any one of these things? So for them, they say that you're humans in general are not doing enough. And what one of them actually said was the hmar, like the donkey, helped us more than all of humanity. Because they say, look at the donkey is hungry with us. The donkey is pulling our goods, and he's hungry just like we are, and he still works and helps us. Meanwhile, the countries around us, their belly beats them through the door, and they say that they can't do anything because their government says X, Y, Z. But kind of bringing it back, that is my opinion. No change is going to happen unless we become comfortable taking some element of risk, okay? And whether it was at the time, you saw the tent city in Khan Yunis, whether it was at the time in Karbala when Imam Hussein was talking to the people of Kufa and they all promised, they sent the 12,000 letters and they said, hey, come, we're going to help you, etc. When he came, they all kind of backed out because there was some risk. I don't want to think that I would be one of those people in the city of Kufa. Okay, I'm no scholar, I have a lot that I need to improve on, but I think the one thing that I do understand is that there has to be some element of risk, some element of sacrifice in our life, or else I personally, I cannot come to terms, I cannot convince myself that I'm doing enough when I look these people in the eye and I see kids and people going through what they're going through.
Ahsantum. At this time, actually, I would like to open it up to the general community to see if they have any questions for Dr. Ahmed.
So you talk about risking like some aspect of our life to advocate for the Palestinians. So in your opinion, what is the best form of activism, or I guess best way that we could help, like, I guess constructive?
Yeah, I understand. So people ask, like, should I donate, right? I think donating is step one in the level of what you can do for people, at least for the person who is living in Southern California and comes from privilege, which is all of us compared to them. Plus, money over there works a little bit differently. You go, if you send it, it goes to a bank. The bank takes like 60%, and then the bank gives them 40% of the money that they try and withdraw. And usually that's very old notes, like old bills. And people, they're like, don't accept old bills. So oftentimes donating money actually doesn't do anything. But I will say that, for example, if you work at a workplace that you know is either like supplied by an organization that donates to Israel, like, like the BDS list. BDS is a good way, like starting that movement or supporting that movement at your workplace. Educating the people around you, even if it might, open you up to some criticism in a sense. Like when you're at your job, when you're at your school, you use your best judgment. Everyone, I assume no responsibility for things that you go through. Everyone does their own judgment. But when you're around, like say you're at work and there's a conversation going on, you should educate the people around you and you shouldn't feel shy talking about this, even if you know that people's opinions might disagree with you. We have to let people know that the people who empathize with the Zionists are in the minority now. The time to be shy and the time to be scared was before October 7th. Now they're the minority and we're the majority, and they should feel embarrassed to speak up. And that's the way we should change it to be. So whether it's like BDS at your workplace, whether it's if you're in politics running for office with a very obviously pro-Palestine or everyone, you have to use your own judgment in the circle that you're able to do, and you make your own judgment. But
from the sisters, any questions?
The hardest part I had was when I was going there and I landed in Amman in Jordan. They interrogated me for 2 hours about what I was doing there. They asked me many questions, anything that you can think of, for a couple of hours. And when I left the interrogation room, I asked the guy leading the interrogation, I told him, I expected when I was coming to Jordan, I told you I'm going to Gaza, that you would roll out a red carpet for me and make me a VIP. Have you no shame to treat me like this when I'm helping your cousin in Gaza? and they have no answer for you. But the hardest job, the hardest part of the whole journey was, of course, with the IDF. But that's expected. But the hardest part of the journey was in Amman, and coming back, they didn't ask me anything. Nothing. It was smooth, easy. Yes. So the question was, are there like resident physicians who are going? There are resident physicians who have gone. My friend went when he was a resident physician the first time. Anyone can go. Just about 2 weeks ago, Israel banned any NGO mission into Gaza. Likely reason being, as you can see with the targeting the journalists, and if you remember Anas, the guy who was at Shifa when he was bombed from Al Jazeera, they are cleansing the area of witnesses, outside witnesses, very deliberately and very intentionally. And this is corroborated by doctors I know who are in Gaza, who are telling me like more killing is happening than what they're showing. Like anyone who's taking photos and videos is being killed. For Allahu A'lam what's about to happen to them in the north. So right now there's actually no more missions. Everything was canceled like 2 weeks ago. But yes, there are residents, and inshallah, maybe I'll give my contact information. If people are interested one day, I can put you into contact with the groups to help facilitate that.
Salam Ahmad. We know that Israel's strongest aspect is like their propaganda when it comes to saying that there's no starvation in Gaza, and Netanyahu even in Congress saying that his team tells him that there was practically no civilians killed during the war. In terms of your expectations versus what you saw online before going to Gaza and what you saw there with regards to starvation, with regards to who they were targeting, was it what you expected based off what you saw online? Was it worse? What exactly were your thoughts on that aspect?
You know, I don't think they target, I think like, you know, the question you're getting at, I don't think they target children deliberately, in the sense that I don't think they move their scope from a father or a dad to shoot a child, but I think it is indiscriminate. So I didn't see like a huge ratio of children coming in. It was mainly younger men, like I'd say the majority of the patients I saw were males between the age of probably 10 and 40. That's just because those are the people who tended to go to the aid sites because the women can't and it's very physical. And there's even fights among the people in Gaza. Like over there, people are so hungry they're fighting over bags of flour. So we had cases where like one person would like stab another and that guy would go around and like stab him back, and then they both come in as patients because people are so hungry. But I don't think that they go and they like they're like, oh, old kid target. But it is indiscriminate where they just take it and they shoot, and whoever comes out in front of them, they're shooting, and it doesn't matter young, old, man, woman, whoever's in front of them is being shot. My opinion, at least based off what I saw.
The question that I have is, if we advocate military action against the Zionists, are we in any way helping or not?
I think I'm no expert, you know, I just went to Gaza for a few weeks and came back, but I think any advocacy is good. I think that advocating for like military intervention is, in my opinion, a lost cause. I think the military that was to intervene would have intervened a year ago, if it hasn't already. But I think what is easier to advocate for and what people would relate more to, rather than, oh, we should like XYZ country should go and bomb them back kind of thing, is the number one, when you talk to people in Gaza, the first person that they curse is not the Yahud, it's not Israel. They say they are our enemies and we expect our enemy to treat us like an enemy would treat us. The first person they curse is Egypt. Everybody. Because between like the Egyptian border and Rafah, there are 8 walls. Okay? You drive through and it's fortified beyond your wildest dreams. And in Egypt, there's maybe 100, 120 million Muslims there. So they all say the same thing of, if 1 million of those people came to the border and said, we're opening the border now, the border would open tomorrow. but everyone is debilitated by the same idea that I think we're debilitated with here of my government doesn't agree with me, so I can't do anything. And that's in a Muslim country. You know, at least we have maybe slightly bigger excuse than they do. But over there, if 1% of the population showed up to the border would open in the same day. So I think if you're gonna, regardless, back to your question, if you're gonna advocate, I think an easier, lower hanging fruit and more digestible by the average person is advocating against the human rights violations that are taking place, advocating against the famine from photos we showed today and things we talked about, and advocating against just treating humans like humans, right? Not like something less than a human. And I think you'd find probably more success in that realm, in my opinion.
Sisters?
Oh. None? Oh.
So I'll
Yeah, so the question was when I came back, like, how did my friends or coworkers at work look at me? So I did a few interviews in the news. One, like NBC was like one of the major ones, and it was all over the news for a while. And when I came back, someone there had found it, and they spread it to like a group chat for the whole hospital. And you know, I work in Anaheim. Anaheim is like in Little Arabia. So now I sit in the ER, and every day people come from like random floors, random departments, and they come, like they thank me, and they say, oh my God, wow, so nice. So over at work, it's been very positive from most people. I work with a couple people who are definitely Zionists, and they've been silent on the issue, and that's exactly how I want them to be. I personally am at a point where I feel they should be embarrassed to voice their opinion, and I think that's exactly what they are. And these are people who are like my bosses, two of them, and I like them silent. And inshallah, every Zionist remains silent from now on because they should be embarrassed to like voice their opinion and to speak on. Because I sit there now, and you know, people want to hear. You know, people want to hear stories. Americans, people are learning, opening their eyes every day. I show someone videos every single day. I'm at work, and they say, "Oh my God, like, I'm ashamed that I didn't see this before." Every day I have like white people and Indians crying at the things in my phone, because they said, like, I can't believe I was so ignorant to what is actually taking place and the Holocaust that's happening right now in Gaza. And so we all like, get in a circle in the ER and we share videos and stories. And these people, when I know they're around, they see what's happening and they have to listen to it while they're at work, and there's nothing they can do about it. And that's the way every workplace, inshallah, one day will be. One workplace at a time.
you just go ahead.
Thank you so much for spending your evening with us. I know you just came off a shift as well. I just had one question, obviously, like most of the people in here, alhamdulillah, did go to medical school and maybe were able to get that those skills acquired. Do you know of any organizations or any other humanitarian work that can be done for people who are not doctors?
Yes, a little bit, because when the world becomes as like when your whole world collapses, like it is in Gaza right now, they believe it's like an apocalypse over there. The only thing that matters is your health, right? So everything there is focused on people trying to get better and people trying to heal. So right now, the vast majority, I'd say like 95% of the humanitarian effort is, like to be physically in Gaza, physically, it's medical related work. There is a lot of work that can and needs to be done in politics, I mean, in engineering and all kinds of other fields that we can talk about as well. But to be like physically in Gaza, I don't think there is anything aside from medical providers, whether nurses, PAs, physicians, anything, or EMTs. Right now it's just medicine going in.
Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah. Can't thank you enough for your services. May Allah reward you and your family abundantly for that. My question is, how's the coping mechanism of people of Gaza? Like, you know, with all the terrible situation, we struggle, like our mental health is terribly affected. How do they cope up? Like, like for example, at one point we were happy when some other forces were helping them. Just watching those videos would help make us cheery. Does the same work for them? Do they appreciate if some other people are doing sacrifice, or how do they cope up with all the mayhem?
I think they don't really. The people there are broken. Every single person in Gaza needs a psychiatrist or a therapist eventually, but they have like this face where you talk to them and they make you feel like nothing is wrong with them, when in reality their whole world is falling apart. Every single person, 100% without one exception in Gaza, has a story that you could talk about here and put their photo, and it'll put the whole room to tears. Every single person. I didn't meet one exception, whether it's them themselves or their family or whatever it might be. There's no way to cope with that. But I think they're at a place where they've accepted, everyone there has accepted in their mind, I'd say 95% of the people that are there believe they're going to die. And now, for them, actually, if you follow Humans of New York has a very good segment on, they're running like Palestine stuff right now. One of theirs, they just posted from a girl named Noor, who helps like facilitate. You may have seen it. And she talks about like how she used to dream about leaving Gaza one day, and during the war she was dreaming about leaving. And then she said at the end of it, she ended with, now I can't imagine ever leaving, because I feel like the only place in the world that's real is in Gaza. And I believe that. Because over there, they can speak their mind. They're living like people who are on borrowed time. And they all say, like, you shouldn't feel sorry for us. We don't need you. Just let us live. Like, they don't want you to come over here and like build their houses for them and stuff. They're saying, just stop the bombs, let the aid in, and we'll take care of it. There's Dr. Munir, that guy in the ER, he would always say, he said, if every single person left the north, I would stay here. And if you leave me a hammer and you come back to the north, you'll find it back. So everyone has this mentality. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Any sisters?
So I know you talked about how you tried to like triage with a system of like blue and red and et cetera, and you had one case where there is an exception. And I wanted to just hear more, like, how did you guys even establish systems of triage in general? Like, how did you cope with that system of like overwhelm and chaos, and like try to focus on what you needed to do?
That idea of triage, like based off colors, is actually something we have in the United States too. So you're trained in like critical triage as well, like in mass casualty incidents, like at mass shootings and stuff. You have like black, red, yellow, green, etc. So it's something I was familiar with, but over there, the difference is, people are often mistriaged because there are non-properly trained medical people trying to make medical decisions out of necessity. I'm telling you, there's only 2 ER doctors in all the North. So sometimes you have someone who's done they finished their medical school and they did 1 year of residency, and they're the ones trying to triage, and oftentimes they make mistakes, or like they miss things and they forget things, which is why you can have someone who's blue suddenly start breathing and have potential to live. While you're there and while you're in the motion and movement, there's no time to feel sad. Sometimes you have to step away, especially when it's a kid. But there was many instances where, so one of the life-saving things in medicine is stopping a bleed, placing a tourniquet on a bleeding limb. In the United States, if you're shot in the leg and you make it to a hospital and you're still alive and a tourniquet is available, you will survive 100% of the time. Your survival rate is 100%. In Gaza, there's so much volume that I would be in a room working on someone on the floor, and I'm telling you, I would look up and I would see a child, right? Because I say children not because men don't matter, but because children get priority, or women don't matter but in medicine, usually children are priority. If there's 10 people coming in and one's a kid, you start with a kid, right? But I'm telling you, you'd be working on someone, doing your thing, 2-3 minutes. You look up, and in the corner, a child has passed away from a gunshot wound to their leg, that all they needed to live was the 10 seconds to place a tourniquet on them. So all you need to do is go, whether a tourniquet or a belt, something, tighten it around their leg, and they would live. Like they would live, walk out of the ER in a few days, walk out of the hospital. But because you're so busy, and because this volume is so much, you can't place that tourniquet and they die. A kid dies. So when you say about like how do you cope, like you can't think about it. If you're gonna go there and like cry in a corner because you feel bad in the moment, you can do that later. There's plenty of time to cry afterwards. And every single day I was there, I cried, 100%. Everyone did. But if you want to sit in the corner during like one of these events and cry, then just know that your crying episode, do it later.
Hold on, sister. She has a question. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. So my question almost piggybacks off of the sisters. Of all the horrific things that you've shared with us and a lot of what you haven't, what has been the most impactful and has stayed with you?
It has what?
That has been impactful and has stayed with you?
It's very difficult like to name one instance, because maybe like if you ask me my experiences here in the ER, I can name like 2 or 3 patients that like stick with me, but those 2 or 3 patients is the average patient over there, right? Like here, when you ask me about like the things that the patients are impactful in my life in the United States, I can name to you almost every single kid that passed away that I've taken care of. I know 80% of their names. I don't forget them and I think about them a lot. Over there, I can't even remember them, right? So what I thought was like impactful here is just the norm. It's just another day over there. Oh. Yeah. 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 Not one thing in particular. I have a collage that flashes through my head and I think about a lot. A few of the patients that I showed, Ayla is probably my main one, because she would have lived here. You know, a lot of people would have, but her specifically. I'm sorry, I don't have a great answer.
Sister in the back. Yeah. Go ahead.
I wanted to know the picture that you showed, the tent people live on there. Have you been on that place?
In the Khan Yunis? Yeah, those tents are everywhere.
Okay. Do they have bathroom or water?
No.
Can
Not
you
even-
describe
no.
a little bit about what their daily sanitary life is like?
There's no sanitary life. So before, along the ocean, like it was a sea of tents, and people, when they want to shower or rinse or whatever, they jump in the ocean, they clean themselves. Like this ocean was the main source of cleanliness. A few months ago, the IDF put a ban on the water, and if you touch the water, you are killed. So now if you go, a lot of the road is along the ocean right now. There's just constant drones flying back and forth. You just watch them. As you're driving, you see them like flying, and they just paroling to see anyone in the water to shoot them. There is no sanitation in Gaza. That's why like, if one person gets sick, everybody gets sick. So there's nothing. In the bathroom, there's no soap. So I took like little napkins that like dissolve and become soap in your hands. There's no soap in Gaza. There's no sanitation. If you shower, if you're lucky enough to shower, it's because they have like salt water. It's like this like salt water that they like filter a little bit, and you can shower there. But in the tents, there's no bathroom. There's nothing. There's people do what they have to do, probably in a corner of their tent, and they hope for the best. Of course, yes. Of course, the ladies is more difficult.
In the interest of time, inshallah, we'll take one more question. One more question from the brothers and one more question from the sisters.
Ahmed, assalamu alaikum. I think we spent some time last weekend in of all your kind of stories, I think what stuck with me the most, and I wanted you to possibly share with everybody, was your first experience when arriving back in the U.S. and your trip to Costco, if you don't mind. And the only reason I bring it up is because, you know, when I told my kids that story afterwards, I think for a lot of the young guys too, it hits home just how privileged we are. Specifically that one, if you don't mind.
So the day we entered into Gaza was the worst day of the famine. That day, 1 kilo of flour was $200 US. Excuse me, 1 kilo of sugar was $200 US. 1 kilo of flour was $80 US. So over there, obviously, people are dying for like a kilo or two of flour, and oftentimes people would go to these aid distribution sites to get. There's no one smarter than the IDF at torture. So when the aid trucks come in, oftentimes the flour bags, they're 50 kilos. So they make it so who here can carry 50 kilos in a normal day? Now imagine the aid sites are 2 miles away from where you live, minimum, and it's hot out, and you're hungry, and you're old, so now your dad has to go, or your mom has to go, and they have to carry a 50-kilo bag of flour, and then fight people for it. So people go get these flour bags, and oftentimes, like I think one of the most like disheartening things is they would go to get these flour bags and say they're there with their kid, and I can't remember if I mentioned this already. Something would happen to their kid or something would happen to them, and all of a sudden people are coming to the ER now because the dad had to take this flour that they were ready to die for, cut open the bag, dump it on the floor, and put his kid in the flour bag and throw his kid in the thing and bring him to the ER like in a bag of flour. So over there, people are dying for things that we don't care for. So on my last day in Gaza while I was there, all my clothes that I had with me, except for like a shirt or two and a couple of other things, I gave away. So, and that's like normal. So I gave away my clothes, my toothbrush, I had a hair trimmer, I gave that away. So I got here and I didn't have anything. So the next day, after landing, so we had to go to Costco and buy things. In Costco, you walk through all the aisles, and I was getting all the things, and there's the aisle with the stack of flour, and there's an aisle with a stack of sugar. And I think like that moment, there's so many like sad moments, but when I tell you the like how my heart sunk seeing these things, like you see them in Costco, you look at them and you just like walk past it like it's nothing, you know? And over there, they are literally 100 times more expensive. It's not 20 times more expensive. It's literally 100x. The day I entered Gaza, it was 100x what is here. And I, with my cart filled with all the things I just replaced, like this, that I had given away, I look at these like bags of flour and bags of sugar, and I look at them and I walk past them like they don't mean anything to me. Meanwhile, like if you could bring that bag of flour to like a family, like you'd have to fight them to rip them off your feet from kissing you because you're giving them, they usually distribute it, when someone gets 25, they distribute kilo. So 1 kilo of flour, like there's nothing someone wouldn't do for that, and here we have the privilege to look at it and walk away from it. So the next time you're in Costco and you see those things, just know there are our brothers and sisters, and their names are Muhammad, their names are Ahmad, their names are Ali, their names are Hamza and Yasin, and any name that you can think of that's here is over there. And those same people, and they're obviously they're women as well, but those same people are in our ummah are dying over there over the thing that you look at and you walk away from.
على محمد وآل محمد. I'd like to hand it over now to Sayyid Abbas, who will give his concluding remarks and dua, inshallah, before we conclude. And I want to thank Dr. Ahmed for coming here and speaking. One of his missions is not only what he did in Gaza, but it's also to spread the message to everybody who can't make it to Gaza, to spread the message of what is actually taking place, to spread the message of the actual genocide, of the famine, of the starvation, of what he actually seen. And as hard as it is, obviously, as we've all seen him here, this wasn't an easy task for him to do. It's not an easy task for anybody to sit down in front of a mass audience and describe the horrors that you witnessed. And to describe the horrors not just that you witnessed in adults, that you witnessed in children and women, and to have to come back and relay these stories to all. So we express our heartfelt thanks to Dr. Ahmed, and we wish him, inshallah, that his heroic mission continues, and he, inshallah, has opportunities to continue to help the people of Gaza in many ways and form, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for coming here. And personally, we've all seen videos and seen footage, but hearing this firsthand from Dr. Ahmed, and I would ask you to continue this message that Doctor is sharing to us in your own communities, in your own families, at your work, wherever you are. Continue this, and second of all, not to lose hope. And I would like to conclude that remember that eventually the righteous will inherit the earth. This is the promise of the Holy Quran. And whenever we see such suffering and we work for it, we have to be working for the faraj of the Imam of the time. And we'll end this dua, and hopefully this will be for the faraj of all of those in Gaza, throughout the world that are suffering. We do end with the dua of Imam al-Zaman, inshallah. Ya Allah, remove all this oppression, grief, and genocide, inshallah. Let's face the Qibla and make dua for the Imam of the age. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma kulla waliyaka al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan. Salawatuka alayhi wa ala aba'i fi hadhihi as-sa'a wa fi kulli sa'a. وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمعته فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
And brothers and sisters, as you make your, please remember that tomorrow we have a Dua Komel night. So just as you came here tonight, inshallah, we love to see you tomorrow night as well. At 7:30, inshallah, starting with Salah, and there'll be some refreshments to go as you leave here today. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Then going there, I know you have to do what you have to do, but what you can do, because you've seen it with your eyes, nobody else.
Inshallah, next month I'm in Washington, D.C. I'm going to Capitol Hill. Speak to some congressmen.
It's jihad al-tabyin.